Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nav.it Files and for our episode 14 on the 13th. I thought we'd be clever enough to do 13 on the 13th, but alas, we're one ahead of ourselves. That's okay. Hope you all are doing well on this fun Friday. We've had just piles of snow here in Sun Valley. Erin, how you doing?
I'm great. Hi everyone.
Good. I'm excited to start the weekend. As we start the weekend, let's start with one of the better topics, self-care. Do you have a self-care?
I do have a quick self-care.
Okay.
Yes, I decided to host a Christmas party. I have a group of wonderful friends.
That's so fun.
Yes, like the kids all get along, but they're the key issue here is they're French. Three of the six of them are French.
Because your kid goes to a French school.
Because my kid goes to a French school, because but what that means around Christmas is, food is very important. Like that is
absolutely
thing, right? Yes. In anything and especially around friends. So my self-care was I asked for help. I'm so proud of myself.
I love that.
Yes.
Of course you did. I feel like you're piggybacking off of me a little bit because I think that was one of mine one day, but fair enough.
It could be. I feel like every day that we ask for help is a win. So we should
totally.
Yes.
So wait, what did you ask for help in?
Well, so the two gentlemen who are like gourmet chef, like very good at food, I was like, hey, do you guys want to help me plan the menu? And
by plan, I mean make.
By plan, I mean make most of it. And they did, and they love it. So they were like, yes, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I was like, great, I'll just show up and like host it. You people bring the food.
Hey, hosting, I think, is the biggest part of the hurdle. Like,
yes.
And we've talked about this, I think, on here, because you can't tell people when to leave. And like, right. I love my friends, but I am not a night owl. I'm like, I like to be in bed because of my sleeping issues. It's like bedtime, earlier the better. Like optimize your sleep hours as soon as possible. And I don't know if it's like the stage of my life that I'm in, but everybody now, that's what you do. You do dinners and whatever, but yes, they stay until like the wee hours of the morning because they don't have kids yet. Yes. So it's like there's not a babysitter factor.
No. Even if you are friends with French people, even if they have children, they still stay to the wee hours because they're like, you children just fall asleep on the couch. It's like adult time. Like it's really about the adults and their pleasure, and the kids just have to adapt. And I kind of love it. It's like kids have to step it up.
John and I are working out like what our signals are to try and, because it's hard to like know when the other person wants your friends to leave. And so we're like, if we tag team it, maybe it can feel more assertive.
Like,
sure.
Scratch under your eye.
Yeah, exactly.
10 minute warning.
3 coughs in a row. Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, my facial touch thing, but I touch my face a lot, so that wasn't really.
Oh, that wouldn't. Yeah, definitely not your hair. You can't do a hair flip.
No, I touch my. If you guys haven't figured out by now, I watched I think it was episode 12, and I literally was just touching my face the whole time. I do it when I'm really tired. I'm just like, don't look at me.
I haven't noticed that, but the hair. It's like if you do a hair flip, he'd be after 5 minutes, he'd be saying, "Oh, they have to go now." Like, wait, they just got here.
Seriously. Well, I have a brief self-care too. I decided on a Friday to do the laundry. I typically reserve all home things for Sunday, but I had to stay at home while I was waiting for some stuff to get done today. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and optimize my weekend by getting some of the more mundane things done up front. Brilliant. So I did all the laundry today, which feels kind of good. Yeah.
You can get a lot done while it's in spin cycle. So
I love it. Yeah. So my marketing play for the day it's pretty brief. I found myself taking on a lot of like tasks today, which I wanted to expand on because I think that really translates well to like the founder experience of wearing many hats, where we identified a few things earlier on in the week that needed optimizing, which we're really excited about. We're launching kind of a complete overhaul of the brand coming up soon, and we're kind of starting to implement different features of that rebrand across our digital assets. But I also wanted to overhaul our newsletter in a capacity that would make more sense for the reader and be a little bit more unique to our audience, which somehow translated into me doing a lot more work. Which I love our editorial director. She crushes it, but like she's only one person. So other, you know, when you introduce something new, especially when you haven't templatized the process, you have to like find time to do these things. And so 3:30, I was telling Erin, 3:30 rolled around and all of a sudden I like hadn't written this market breakdown of the week that I had promised that we were going to do because it was my idea and I think it's going to be good. And then all of a sudden, because like Erin was in the office with some of our design people today in Seattle, like there was just so many Slack messages coming through at the same time that I needed to like hunker down and write, which is typically lovely and I can write pretty quickly. But when you're talking about like the industrial sector, or what really killed me today. So I'm breaking out this this document into the different like 11 sectors of the market. Yeah. And it was the technology sector. And I was reading some of the news of the week. I'm like, what? It's like, you're a company that does what? There was literally something that was like digital psychographic communication and something else, and I like an iCloud, and I was like, there are so many words. There's so many words really are just that I don't know. Yeah. Well, I wrote it anyway, but it was really hard. It was really hard. So I don't know. I wanted to, you know, since we're doing these daily and we won't always have like the most tangible tip in the world, but I think that when you try and introduce a new, especially like piece of content collateral, try and write as much of it up front as you can. So it actually gives your team less work, but they'll be more efficient at then reproducing that work later down the line. So yeah, it's going to be like an upfront haul for you, but it'll pay out hopefully 10 times down the road. Like my thought was if I templatize and make this process neat and clean, then hopefully I'll be able to pass off most of the work here soon.
That's awesome. Actually, that ties into our product. No, it's efficiency, right? And I just, as a co-founder, when you understand each other so well, I could tell because I know the cadence in which you respond to things when you're like, you know, able to respond. And I could tell like there were like dead spaces of silence. But
I put do not disturb on in my computer.
Oh, see, well, I didn't see that.
After a time, I was like, I can't
do it, right? But it was really good because I knew, like, I just know you, and there's so much trust. I was like, oh, she's deep into something. Yeah. She'll respond when she can, but she has a different mindset than normal. Like when you're going back and forth, you know, it's like totally. She's driving somewhere. Like
totally. Well, and you know, we're in this accelerator group, and that was the whole topic of the day was like understanding your co-foundership relationship.
Right.
And finding somebody to like suit your needs. And Erin was so funny. Erin and I were sitting there just like, they were like, so when did you guys have conflicts this week? Asking the whole group. And Erin and I were just like, we don't really have those.
I mean, like, really? Do we have to find one? Because we can't find it.
They're like, speak up. And we're like,
I was like, oh, we better say something. So I'll do a personal one because like we got nothing.
I know, if you haven't figured out by now, Erin's default for when we don't know what to say is just go personal. Go personal and go home.
I am an open book. They're like, what is the thing? Success is a conglomeration of a bunch of failures. Just like, whatever.
So,
bring it on.
I also really loved our social media posts that the team posted of like our Nav.it files transcript.
I was like, I got thrown under the bus. I'm going to get you back.
I'm getting thrown under the bus in our newsletter. So for all of you who haven't seen our newsletter yet today, Nadia specifically emailed me being like, is it okay for me to say this about you? I was like, yes, go for it.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Okay, what is your financial, or I think we're going product today.
New product today.
We're trying to trickle in some of the more product-centric stuff for all of you interested in software or tech, or how the hell will we do this thing?
Yes, completely. And it's a financial product, so something plays in there. So actually, I'm going to piggyback off of your concept of building out templates. And one of the things, there are two things we're doing. So we are overhauling the app right now, and we're all a part of that. But one of my roles is to kind of daily check in with our dev team to make sure I can answer questions and we can problem solve, which has been so great. And it's an interesting thing, you know, when we weren't in the dev world, they call them sprints. You have 2-week sprints where you're like, 3 things, you're doubling down, you're building it, you do it in 2 weeks, you get it out, you review, blah, blah, blah. So when we were building the app, we were doing daily check-ins, and then we kind of been in maintenance mode, like getting users, getting user feedback, all these things. So we've done weekly check-ins instead of daily. And now we're back into sprint mode, like really like pushing to get things out. So it's back to daily. And it's such a pleasure because it's 30 minutes, it's quick and dirty. If it's like he has key things that he wants to talk to me about, or I had some deliverable, like I was helping him build out the idea of a feature that he could then go build. So those dailies, it's early in the morning, half hour, but we get a ton done. And then the second thing I've realized is in the templatized idea, I'm really starting to, in everything we do, start with the concept of intention. Like, what is our intention behind? We were doing that with the newsletter, right? With the podcast, with the marketing stuff, but even with the dev, like these features, like what is the intention? We're doing a very exciting feature, a daily check-in. You guys will soon see it next month. It's like drip campaign. I'll tell you more later. But part of that, like even with the dev team, even though, you know, they're usually about the dev side and executing, and we're really lucky to have a CTO that is quite creative and is really a thought partner. But often I think dev teams are just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But with the intention of around the feature, I think it also gives him context and us a dialogue of like, okay, what is this larger concept that we want to move people towards? Mm-hmm. So it's been really great to kind of have that be the standard in which we kind of think about everything we do across marketing and product. So it's been really fun.
Totally. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys are prioritizing the feature sets, and especially as they all relate into like this huge mass overhaul.
Oh, they so do. So one of the wins that we have had is the vast majority of the back end of everything we have is already built. So he's not having to go, you know, we have the budget features. We even have a community. We're overhauling the community. We had taken it out. We initially started with a community feed that it didn't do exactly what we want. It was good. People were posting, but it was too kind of Instagrammy, and it like pressure to be pretty and have a nice picture. And we really want to take that back and have a place where people can just ask their questions and talk, and it's free of the pressure to look good, or, you know, the kind of social pressure. So we pulled that quite quickly after we launched it, but we still have all the work on that. So the back end, so it's actually a huge win is like, he doesn't have to go back and build all that. It's just tweaking it and reorganizing it. So in terms of what you're saying, the priorities, it's been, you know, and the other thing that we've gotten recently with a little bit of influx of investor cash is that we can have another dev. So one of the big things, poor guy, like he is such an amazing CTO. He's been on his own.
He's the only man in our company. And
he's the only man in our company. And he's been amazing. Yeah, and he's such an ally. And we've had I have like this collection now after doing this of these amazing allies, like men that get it, some of our advisors that are gung-ho, you know, it's like when you find the good ones, you're like so proud. Like, totally. And he's just also really good at what he does. So, but now that prioritization wise, he now has a second team member. So they've always kind of worked. We had this guy before when we were building the first app version. That guy usually takes the back end. He is the type of guy that our CTO could just give action items to, and he goes and does it, and he's really smart and he's good at that back end. And Darren, our CTO, takes more of the user experience front end stuff when they have each other. When he's by himself, he does everything. But so the prioritization, like Brian can take a prioritization, like he has a sprint for 2 weeks. He's building out, you know, 3 things that we know that will take a while. And then Darren and I can manage, like basically prep the next step. So prep, you know, the next kind of features that will tie into what Brian will do on the back end. So, yeah.
I think it's so great. And I want to roll into real talk, and I was going to do something because I was hot-headed in my entrance into this episode. I was going to do something around mansplaining that happened to me today. But I am going to table that conversation and instead I think it's important to actually talk about a little bit about what we learned on that call with Seneca today, our accelerator group, and the value of foundership and rather co-foundership and finding like a partner and doing this together. Right. And in doing so, once you've found that person, like effectively organizing your like your own priorities and figuring out like who's attacking what component of the business.
Yes.
Because as we all know in startup, like everything can meld together and everybody can do everything. And Erin and I are certainly on calls together a lot, but like one of us is always the lead. And I think that that's important. Like one of us is responsible for certain follow-ups and the other can just be like, hey, like remind me where we were with this.
Totally. I feel like we are so blessed to have found this. I mean, I like, we are saying this to the world, but like there's just synergy, right? And I think that I would argue that if someone is starting a business and they are looking for a co-founder or have a co-founder and they don't have synergy with them, if they're looking for one and you like are meeting people, and I was so lucky, I just put it out to the universe, like I want a co-founder and I found you. Like I didn't have to bet, like this angel came into my life. But I think people like force it or they try, and if there's not this, like you are essentially married. Like you have to be able to understand each other and read each other and understand and empathize and understand the other person's motivation and like compromise. Like, and I think you're right. One of our strengths is, and find a skill set that complements you that isn't your skill set completely, right? Like I don't know the marketing stuff, and I'm happy to take on the administration stuff that you don't want to deal with. Like only one person should deal with, right? But I'm always going to check in with you, and the open lines of communication are like, when to ask, hey, what do you think of that? So Yeah,
and I think, you're right. It is very much a marriage where like there's levels of compromise too, right? It's like you realize that neither of you have all the answers and you still won't have all the answers when you come together, but you'll be able to figure out some of the answers from your collaboration. And I think that that's an important key point. Like one of the other founders that we were on the line with today, mentioned that like they were constantly looking for somebody with specific skill sets, which is great. And that's what you did. And like, I would have done the same thing. However, I think you also took a more emotive approach to it. It was like, yeah, they need to have certain skill sets, but really we're in our infancy. Like we could use all the skill sets we can get, to be honest, so long as they're not like a replica of yours. And so I think it's, at this stage, like especially when you're trying to find a co-founder, so somebody who's sharing literally all of your responsibilities and your same level of equity, it's so much more about the emotive play than it is about the like strategic tactical one. I think certainly you have to like represent thoughtfulness when you then go back to your board or to your advisors or whomever you're looking for money and guidance. But at the same time, like the minute they meet that other person that you've chosen, like hopefully and theoretically they should feel just as confident in that person as they do in you.
Totally. And I think, so to your point, though the complementary skill sets are important, but the core is that emotive motivation. And if you believe, because this is so hard, that like you have to believe in it. You have to have the passion to figure it, to want to jump on the gravy train and like potentially suffer together and go through the hard times to get to the positive times. And to do that, to sustain that, you need to have the passion for it and the mission and be mission driven. And then I think, and especially if there's synergy between you, then you can figure out anything. But I totally agree. I think that if people are smart, we're all highly intelligent people, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter exactly if the skill set's what you need. Is that core belief and motivation and desire to sustain it. Right.
And I mean, they have to have like industry understanding. Like,
right.
You can, like, hire your 16-year-old nephew, but like we but there's certainly other factors that are more than the quantitative, like on paper things.
Yeah. So what's the quote? Like, is it the person you want to be in the trenches with? Like that, literally, like the war zone. Do you want to have that person by your side?
Literally. Erin and I are both scrappy, so we would do well in war.
Yeah. Are you kidding? Strategy and strength. We're both very excellent shots.
It's very true. It's very true.
Anyway.
Anyway, so that was my real talk. Do you have anything else that you wanted to?
I feel like we shared that one. I think that's a good one.
I feel like we shared that one too. We will go back to the drawing board for next week and certainly leave your feedback, comments. Tell us how much you love or hate us. We love that kind of thing. And we'll see you all back here on Monday. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.